Let's move away from the African Nations Championship and talk about the build-up to what is expected to happen in the month of September. Talking about the 2026 FIFA World Cup Qualifiers. Head coach of the Bafana Bafana of South Africa, Hugo Broos, has named his preliminary squad for the upcoming FIFA World Cup Qualifiers against Lesotho and Nigeria next month. The Southern African nation will host its match in Bloemfontein with no CAF-approved stadium in Lesotho. Meanwhile, the highly anticipated clash between South Africa and the Super Eagles of Nigeria will also take place in Bloemfontein. Now, the 2023 African Nations Cup of Nations bronze medalists will head into the two encounters on the front foot as they are at the summit of Group C standings with 13 points accumulated after 6 matches played. Broos's men enjoy a healthy 5-point gap over second place Rwanda, who are level at 8 points with third place Benin Republic. On the other hand, Nigeria's qualification hopes are hanging by a thread as they are 6 points behind the table toppers and now ahead of the crucial matches. The 72-year-old Belgian mentor included 5 goalkeepers, with Ronwen Williams replacing Bruce Vuma as Sifo Chad, and Ricardo Goss, Darren Johnson, and Leonardo Lena all retained their places in the preliminary squad. Nigeria-born emerging South African star Ime Okon is among the 46 players listed by Bruce, and South Africa will kick off their qualifying campaign against Lesotho Friday, September 5th, before facing long-time rivals Nigeria just 4 days later on Tuesday. Bruce is expected to trim his squad down to 23, closer to the date of these crucial fixtures. Now, joining us, he is a multi-award winning African football journalist. Lorenz Köhler joins us this afternoon all the way from Johannesburg. Thank you very much, my friend, for joining, and good to have you.
Thank you for inviting me to the show, and good afternoon to the viewers. All right,
interesting times ahead for South Africa, Bafana Bafana. I mean, this is the first time in a while that South Africa are going into a qualifiers with lots of optimism, especially with what the table is saying at the moment. For the preliminary release, what stands out for you most with the list released by coach Hugo Broos? Do you think that there were surprises or inclusions, omissions, as the case may be with this list?
Look, there's always going to be surprises of why this player is not picked or why that player is not picked or why this player is picked. For example, Kolisi Moda, he's currently not training with Sundowns. He's in a contract standoff and hopefully to sort that out, and he's in the preliminary squad. And then there's obviously players like fans have been asking for, like Chandre Campbell, who looks to be making a name for himself at Club Bruges. He's not part of the preliminary list. But I mean, in general, most of the fans have started to question the head coach Hugo Broos less about his squad selections, because I mean, since day one, he's been ruffling feathers about who he picks and who he doesn't pick. But he's obviously getting the results at the end of the day.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, there are some interesting names. There's 8 players from abroad that are in the preliminary list. There's a couple of new names like Keegan Allen in there. Obviously, Ime Okon was in the COSAFA Cup squad, and then he went to Germany. He's another interesting name in there. But all in all, I think it's quite a decent team, and many people believe it's solid enough and consistent enough based on the previous squads to get the job done and continue with their consistent results.
All right, interesting take right there. But let's look at the goalkeeping department. Ronwen Williams replacing Bruce Vuma. How significant is this change for Bafana Bafana heading into this qualifiers? Do you think it was the right choice to make by the coach?
Ronwen Williams is undoubtedly one of the best goalkeepers in the African continent. Yeah. With Ricardo Goss being around there, Ronaldo Lerner's having a great season. Sipo Train is the goalkeeper of the season. And Darren Johnson has extensive youth international experience. He's also doing well for Amazulu. So I don't think there can be much complaints. Maybe Brandon Peterson from Kaizer Chiefs as well. You could have had a sniff in there. He's also started the season quite well. But yeah, I expect it to be Williams, Goss, and Train as the 3 goalkeepers selected for the final squad, because they have been the regular 3. And obviously Williams being the national team captain, he's the undisputed #1 for the national team. So there's not really much, debates or worries about the goalkeeping department at the moment.
All right, let's move on now to the games to expect in September. South Africa at top of the group with a healthy lead. How much of a psychological boost does this give them, especially ahead of the Nigeria clash? Because it's make or mark for Nigeria. You either win or you're out for both games. For South Africa, they can consolidate on what they've had before. How much of a boost is this, looking at the table and the games to come for South Africa?
Yeah, I generally think that there's a lot of excitement. Obviously, looking at the table, there's no calculators involved, which has obviously been the case for many years because of African football, and then they buckle under the pressure in the final few games. I remember before Broos came, we needed a draw away to Sudan to qualify for the AFCON, and we lost to Sudan. And I mean, that's when Broos came, because I felt that was like rock bottom of South African football. And now there's just a lot of positivity around the national team, around the squad, given the fact that, we finished third at AFCON. We've qualified for the next AFCON with relative ease. And then also it looks like this should be a straightforward beat Lesotho, avoid defeat against Nigeria for the very least. And they'll be booking their tickets to United States. So I think there's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of competition brewing, a lot of young players developing in the country. So it's looking good for South African football at the moment.
All right, some fans are looking forward to getting a verdict from CAF concerning the player who was reported ineligible for one of the qualifiers, and CAF is yet to make a statement. How is the South African, football players, fans alike looking at this, knowing fully well that, it could also hamper their qualification to the World Cup should CAF rule in favor of the reporting team and reducing and docking 3 points? What's the mood like? How are the players looking at this, knowing fully well that it could also change the dynamics of the group?
Yeah, obviously, there's a little bit of frustration because it was something that could be. The league is on now. It's been such a long time since this event occurred. Not many people are really talking about it or speculating about it. I guess if a verdict comes or if a ruling is made, it will create some of a storm in the media and amongst the fans and stuff. But as of now, nobody's really worrying or talking about it. And I think many people assume the silence means that nothing is going to happen. As the media, we looked in, the FIFA disciplinary matters over the last international window, and there was no mention of the South African national team. So a lot of people just assume that, it's just something that's not going to happen. But there is a precedent around it. I think even the Super Eagles were docked points, if I'm not mistaken, over a similar case.
Yes.
In a World Cup qualifiers on. So, people were expecting, the same to be for Bafana. But as of now, we've not heard anything. And, so nobody's really, speculating or talking about it at the moment.
All right, finally, if I let you go, Lorenz, Nigeria against South Africa in Bloemfontein. Nigeria wounded, bruised at the moment. They played at the African Cup of Nations. It was Nigeria winning that one. The qualifiers did not go down well for Nigeria at home in Nigeria. Do you see South Africa as favorites in that game, or you think it will go down to who wants it the most?
I would never say anyone is favorites for a Nigeria-Bafana game, especially if you look at the context of the group. Nigeria really need to go all out. South Africa has, I feel, less pressure. But there's just maybe a psychological barrier that South Africa has had over Nigeria. Or Nigeria's had over South Africa. That even when South Africa plays well, Nigeria either manage to get a point or win the game or win on penalties. So I think it's maybe something that our national team needs to look forward to getting over, and say, let's put these what do you call it, these demons away, these nightmares, these ghosts away, and get one over the Super Eagles, because I feel it will be a massive psychological boost for South Africa into the future.
All right, thank you very much, Lorenz. We're looking forward to an exciting international window, and we hope that the very best of football will be witnessed on the African continent. Thank you very much for joining.